Hey guys, Abby from Motor City Nerds here, and I thought it would be fun to do like a 20-year reunion best of 2002 thing until I realized how many jammies came out in 2002, including Queen of the Damned. And I'm like, oh, it's all happening. Interview with the Vampire. It all comes full circle. I don't know if this is going to be the best of, the worst of, or what, or just like iconic movies that came out. I miss these days. I miss when we all used to be, like, when we had jam after jam like this and everybody saw them, because I think there's going to be some on this list that you don't remember coming out in 2002, and you're going to be like, holy shit. Can we just talk about this really quick, though? Hey, Hobart. You're a good boy. Okay, guys, so 2002, it was 20 years ago. And I'm old enough to remember things now and say this was 20 years ago, and I'm shocked. We were really big on the Millennium. Do you guys remember when we were really big on that? It's really smart to do things this way, like have Lord of the Rings come out. The first one was 2001. Harry Potter, the first one was 2001. So the second one was 2002, and you get what I'm saying? Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, Star Wars Episode 2, and a bunch of other sequels going on here, and Lord of the Rings too, you know what I'm saying? There was so many, but then there was just other ones where I'm like, oh my god, like these were either good, horrible, or iconic. My opinion of the best of 2002, I guess. These things turned 20 this year, you guys. What? Where does time go? What is happening? Also, you guys want to see what I got? I got Rainier and Damon. Sick, right? Hey Arnold movie came out this year. Men in Black 2 came out this year. Like Mike. Do you guys remember Like Mike? That was a jammy. If you thought it sounded like a fever dream when we said, don't you remember when Lil Bow Wow gets Michael Jordan's old shoes and then all of a sudden he can play like Michael Jordan? No, that's a real thing. It's a movie called Like Mike with a jammin' soundtrack and Jonathan Lipnicki, who was all over the early 2000s and then disappeared. Little Vampire, Stuart Little, that kid. Yeah, Like Mike. Oh my god, and I'm sorry. This is just gonna be me doing this the whole time, just so you know, and going, oh my god, I forgot about this. But isn't Todd from Breaking Bad, isn't he the bully in Like Mike? I'm not going to look it up. We're just going to say it and think that's a thing, but I'm pretty sure he's a kid in it and he's the bully, Todd. The bad guy at the end of Breaking Bad who's obsessed with Lydia. See, and I think this was the last year Disney was actually like, they geared it like for boys, but there was a couple, it was when CGI and computers were becoming a thing and they were trying to integrate that more into animation. One of the best, which I'm going to make a separate video for talking about it because it's so good, did that very well this year. And then Disney was kind of missing the mark a little bit, but Treasure Planet, and they were coming out with these, they were still hand-drawn but had a lot of CGI and they kind of look a little wonky sometimes, but Atlantis is great. That's a totally separate subject. Spirit, Sailing into the Cimarron, great, one of the greatest soundtracks ever. I will argue for that movie all day long. It's fantastic. It's so good. That came out in 2002, but that's a movie that shows an example of when they were mixing CGI and hand-drawn so well. Treasure Planet, I feel like not so much. Not so much. Is it beautiful? Yeah. Are there parts of it that are really cool? Yes. I love this movie. I love Treasure Planet, and it was fun. It was a fun romp, but it didn't do as well as Disney wanted it to, so they stopped making Atlantis and Treasure Planet and these cool things, but I think that they need to go back to those. And then, like I said, some of it is just iconic. The Ring. The Ring was a huge deal. I don't think people are remembering things like I am, maybe. But The Ring was huge. You're gonna die in 7 days. It was a big deal. And that was, I like The Ring. This is a horror film that wasn't that good, but I remember people being really afraid of it. And like people played it at like slumber parties and got in trouble by other people's parents. Was Ghost Ship. And if I remember correctly, there is some really disturbing imagery in that, but nothing that like stuck in my head that I was terrified of it. Oh, this jam of a jam. Where are my Mothman people at? Where are my Mothman people at? Indrid Cold, what do you know about it? Because me and my sister were obsessed with the Mothman prophecies and the Mothman and everything around it. So, that came out in 2002? What a jam. The Mothman prophecy. Isn't Richard Gere in that? Another one that was a big deal. And everybody really liked it. A Walk to Remember. Remember that sappy shit with Mandy Moore? Big Fat Liar. That has Amanda Bynes in it, right? But Frankie Muniz, and they're making like a CEO's life hell. I vaguely remember that one being a big deal. And like I said, so many things came out this year that I'm like, no, these things should be mentioned. Like the Powerpuff Girls movie came out, the Hey Arnold movie came out, Spy Kids 2, Triple X with that crazy Vin Diesel shit. Do you guys remember the movie Blue Crush? The weird surfing movie? I remember people really liking that. That came out in 2002. Queen of the Damned, iconic, not good, but iconic. And I was like, wait, didn't Aaliyah, who plays Akasha, didn't she pass way before this? And she did. She passed away in August of 2001, and this didn't come out until 2002, which is super sad because that imagery is iconic. You know it's Queen of the Damned. It's and once again, we're going to have Lestat, and we'll get into that, and go, oh my God, Interview with the Vampire is the best show on TV right now. You go watch it. Is that a good movie? No. Is it iconic, and you know exactly what it's from? 100%. Crossroads, the Britney Spears movie, it's fine for what it is, but we also got 8 Mile. Now, whenever I travel in the United States or out of the United States, whenever I say I work at Ford, this is literally the first thing that usually comes out of somebody's mouth if they're not from Michigan. And that is, do you do what Eminem in 8 Mile does? And I'm like, do you know how much seniority you have to do what Eminem does in 8 Mile? I could, theoretically, get a job like that, but because I've been there so long, but no. I wish I did what Eminem does in 8 Mile. But this movie, not only is 8 Mile good, it does capture the city of Detroit very well, and it was filmed here and in Canada, I believe. But one thing it does capture extremely well is, no matter what time of year I watch 8 Mile, I feel like I need to put a hoodie on, like it's cold. You can smell the salt snow mix through that movie so well, and 8 Mile is great, and it was the first time a hip hop song won an Oscar for its song, and Eminem didn't go to the Oscars because he was like, I'm not going to win, which also opened up the door for freaking, and I think people forget about this, that 3 6 Mafia, that 666, they won Oscars for It's Hard Out Here for a Pimp with Hustle and Flow a few years later. If Eminem wouldn't have, which is shitty because it's a white guy, so yeah, crappy, but still, Lose Yourself is a great song that deserved to be nominated, and I think deserved to win, and it won accordingly. But I feel like without Eminem and Lose Yourself winning, they would have never considered nominating another hip-hop song after that. And I mean, Hustle and Flow was years later, but still, that was like a big deal. But 8 Mile is good. 8 Mile is good, but we also, like I said, we have Crossroads with Britney Spears, but do you guys remember what the worst one was? Glitter and the Mariah Carey? That was all over the place. But Super Troopers, iconic. My Big Fat Greek Wedding, which was like a phenomenon back then. That's what I mean. Some of these movies were like everybody knew, from your grandma to your cousin to your friend at school to whoever. Like, everybody saw these things. Like, My Big Fat Greek Wedding, I wouldn't throw on for my nephews to watch, you know what I'm saying? But it's like, maybe it's because I was the youngest, but we had to like sit through these things and go and see these event things because somebody older in our family wanted to see that. So it's like, well, we're going as a group, so we have to go. And I remember going to see My Big Fat Greek Wedding and being like, no, this is pretty funny. And I was a kid, so it's like, it was good. But I'm also, like I said, just the level of popularity these things were at was at an all-time high, and parts of it were so fun. Oh, here's a jammy. John Q came out this year. We have 13. Do you guys remember 13? And to the person who said this, I'm like, oh my God, how sweet are you? But somebody commented this and said that I looked like Evan Rachel Wood, and I was like, oh my God. This was when she was like young as hell, and she's in it, and so is because this was from the director who did Twilight later on, and Nikki is what's her name in Twilight, the oldest sister. I know these Cullen fucks. Edward, Bella. No, that's not a Cullen. What are the Emmett and Rosalie? It's Rosalie, and I was, when somebody told me that, I was like, what? Because the blonde hair versus the dark hair makes her look so different. But yeah, Catherine Hardwicke, who directed Twilight, also directed a movie called 13, which was like super iconic to my generation. And it's just about like drugs and being young and stuff like that. And it's an intense watch, but it had like a huge impact on my generation. We have tons of sequels: Harry Potter 2, The Chamber of Secrets. We have Star Wars Episode 2, Men in Black 2. But we also have things like Scooby-Doo and Barbershop. So this like set up some really big series also, on top of having Lord of the Rings 2, Harry Potter 2, Star Wars 2. There were some heavy hitters here. When we get to like award season, I did like Road to Perdition. Do you guys remember that was a big deal? Catch Me If You Can, another jam of 2002. The Bourne Identity. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. This was a heavy hitter of a year. We had Sweet Home Alabama. And see, I remember people being really obsessed with this, but I don't remember being obsessed with that. Was Tuck Ever After. That had like a significant impact on people. But Sweet Home Alabama is decent. I like Sweet Home Alabama. I think that's a fun little story. Bowling for Columbine. This was the year that came out, which is a great documentary. If you haven't seen it, I highly suggest it. Friday After Next, another iconic sequel. Made in Manhattan, which it wasn't, I don't remember seeing Made in Manhattan, but I remember it being like a big deal that Jennifer Lopez had like officially crossed over into film and had done Anaconda and had done Selena, and she had done some big movies, and then it was like official that it was like solidified when she did like a fun romantic comedy with Made in Manhattan. I remember that being a whole thing. 8 Crazy Nights, the animated Adam Sandler movie, that was a huge deal. And like I said, I just feel like we don't have this anymore of everyone being like hype about stuff. Signs. If you haven't watched Signs in a while, I highly suggest watching it whenever you are bored and need something to watch. Signs is such a good movie. I feel like that got snubbed with awards, thinking back on it. But this was also at a time, that's why Lose Yourself was such a big deal. This was still at that time of like, we're not going to nominate horror. We're not going to nominate superheroes. We're not going to nominate things like that. They're like, it's kind of frowned upon. Like, I think the first horror film to ever win was Silence of the Lambs, and somebody could argue that's a thriller and not horror, but it's still jammy. But yeah, 8 Crazy Nights was a big deal. Drumline. People really love Drumline. Drumline's a charming little story, too. Like I said, I would put that in the same category as Sweet Home Alabama. Like, are you Citizen Kane? No. Are you a fun movie and a decent movie to watch? Yeah. But then some of these, I'm like, how come these weren't up for awards? Like John Q and stuff, but whatevs. What do I know? And then Gangs of New York, which some people hate, but I really like Gangs of New York. Oh, this was the other animated one, the Wild Thornberrys movie. Chicago, that was the big award one that year, I remember. And Catch Me If You Can, and Road to Perdition. I think Tom Hanks was really working overtime that year. And then we have the crowning, I would call, see, that's what I mean. I'm like, what would you call like the crowning jewel of 2002 that like really knocked audiences back? And I'm like, Spider-Man. It was the first Tobey Maguire Spider-Man year. And that was iconic. Everyone was going out to see that. And not just that, this was the year after 9/11 happened. Spider-Man did this, I was a kid. Like I said, I was born in 92, so I was 10, I was turning 10 this year. I was like 9, 10 years old. It just felt like as a whole, and I'm not way smarter people than me can talk about like the messed up war and things like that, and people getting deployed and still not coming home and all that. Right after 9/11, like I said, I was a little kid, but there was this sense of like, we're all together and camaraderie and like, let's all be together. Like, some people will say like it was this big patriotic time, but I'm like, I was a little kid, but I still remember the vibe of like, we're all trying to get along and be together better. And, like we had this terrible, like, do you guys know how long it took when the Avengers movie had them attacking New York? I think that was the first time in like a decade that they had that on screen in a big, huge blockbuster movie, because you didn't do that for a long time. You know what I'm saying? Like, this was an Avengers level threat that hit New York. And I remember being a kid and being like, oh my God. So it was like the following year when we got that Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, it was like this thing that we could all rally around, from 10-year-old Abby to grandpa, you know what I mean? And then we had the hero song, and we had Tobey Maguire Spider-Man swinging up onto the American flag in New York. It was just a really important movie. The movie had a huge impact, like, and not just that way, just on superhero films, on everything. And this was at a time when we had the original X-Men trilogy coming out. We had, let's give Blade credit where credit is due, first and foremost. It was the first thing under the Marvel banner. But no, I don't think people understand, like, when us Tobey Maguire stans come out the woodwork, we're not just talking about, like, somebody that played Spider-Man. We're talking about somebody that, united the world and, like, united a country after it was severely hurt. And I think that Tobey Maguire Spider-Man is always going to have a super special place in people's hearts because of that. And, like, you might not even realize it, but really, if you were alive at that time and old enough to remember, think back to when the first Spider-Man came out. Like, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it, and the upside down kiss and all of that. And I was rewatching, and Uncle Ben, oh my God, with great power comes great responsibility. That's still said. That's still said in things. It's still a reference to make. Like, this came out swinging, and it came out swinging hard. No pun intended with Spider-Man, but it's like, and Spider-Man isn't even my favesies. If you know me, you know how I feel about Spider-Man. I like Spidey just fine. My mom loves Spidey, but no. I'm ride or die for Tobey Maguire. I cried so hard. I was crying so hard at not Multiverse of Madness, the Spider-Man No Way Home. I was crying so hard that my mom like literally elbowed me and said, "Are you okay? Do we need to leave?" And I was just like, no, we don't need to leave. Some other ones that came out, like I said, did I say Spy Kids, Goldmember, Like Mike, 8 Mile, Harry Potter 2, Treasure Planet, Ghost Ship, with a Ring, Mothman, A Walker, like there's huge things in here, but it's Spidey took that year, I'm pretty sure. And like I said, that was up against Lord of the Rings. I'm factoring in Lord of the Rings too. Like, no, there was huge things, but nothing brought us together like Spider-Man did. And it's like whether or not you even liked it, it's like everything. It really just hit home really hard. But yeah, at first I was like, hey, let's talk about these couple movies of really important significance in my life and them turning 20 this year. And then I went down a rabbit hole of 2002 and I was like, shut up. Like, I thought 2001 was a big year, which it is. This is a huge year. This is a heavy hitter of a year. Like I said, Signs, Barbershop. There are things outside of the IPs we love that were a big deal. 8 Crazy Nights. Like I said, I'm not just saying like good films. I'm saying like things that hit iconically and that for years to come. But yeah, I'm Abby with Motor City Nerds, and yes, these things turned 20. They turned 20 this year. And Two Towers is my favorite. But yeah, I'm on OF, I'm on Instagram, I'm on TikTok, and it's the worst. I hate TikTok so much, and I'm so bad at it. But anyway, yeah. Hi to the new subscribers. I'm working on, I just finished Interview with the Vampire. I just reread it. So, no, you can go check out my reviews on the show because that's great. But I just reread it, and so now I'm, like, really geeked to talk about it more. So I think I'm just going to change my makeup and go straight into talking about that. Excuse me, because I'm shocked at how much came right off the page. But also I was shocked when I was like, that's what made me go down the 2002 rabbit hole was, once again, Interview with the Vampire. But when I saw Queen of the Damned came out in 2002, I was like, shut up. Shut up. So Lestat was hitting us again back in 2002, and I was like, God. And that's an iconic imagery. Like, you might not remember Lestat in that, but you know Aaliyah, and you know it's Queen of the Damned. But yeah, hi to the new subscribers. Let's get into it. Comment. It really helps me out a lot. Share, copy the link, and even if you don't post it anywhere, but yeah, 2002. And maybe go watch some of these jammies that I forgot even came out this long ago.